Thank you. All right, welcome everybody. This is the DeltaV Ops 301 project presentations. So super excited to see what these students have been working on basically for the last 9 weeks, I think. So these are always really fun to see, especially for students who came into this program really not knowing all that much about IT, and to see how far they've come is really fun, really exciting. As always, we like to thank our partners. Involta has been with us from the beginning, hiring lots of students, a great partner when we kicked this thing off with Future Ready Iowa, which provided some grant funding for us and for the students to help with the tuition, as well as Project Iowa in Des Moines. And some of the students that they've sent our way have gone through the program, which is awesome. And then CCR, who is not only a sponsor of our ops curriculum, but they're also a sponsor of our code curriculum as well. And they've been with us for a really long time also. And if you go through, watch this presentation and something that you might be interested in, I'd like to point out that we've got another one starting up. So, the DeltaV code, or sorry, there's a typo there. The DeltaV ops is 102, 201, and 301. And so the next 102 starts on June 28th. So you can go through the full curriculum starting June 28th. And if you went all the way through 301, it would be wrapping up September 3rd. So these are the kind of things that you're going to learn. Obviously, what you see in these presentations are what these students have learned throughout their time in 102 through 301. So if you're interested, just go to deltav.school and you can kind of browse around until you get to the Ops 102 page that gives you more information about that course, and you can get signed up. And I think, as most people know, we don't just do ops curriculum. We also have code curriculum, which is actually where we started. And so if that might be something you're interested in, our next DeltaV Code 101 is still free. It's still over Zoom. And the next one is June 26th. So that's not tomorrow, but the next Saturday. And it's pretty much all day. You're going to learn how to build a website and have something to show off at the end of it. And that gives you a really good taste for the code curriculum to see if that would be something that you would enjoy. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dan.
Yeah, so we're really excited to again share the fruits of the students' labor as they've gone through the last couple of months with us. 4 of the students have come directly off of our 201 class. 2 of the other students took it earlier this year and then came back. So it was fun to have different experiences, different insights. Of course, every student has their own goals. Like every one of our project presentations, we really try to think about things that are happening in the industry, challenges that students might face, and the best ways to prepare them for those things. So in this scenario, and they'll describe it a little bit more, but we imagined with all of the security events going on, what could happen or what would happen. And again, even this morning, for those that happened to catch it on the news, we had yet another hospital that was hit with a ransomware attack. So with that, I'll go ahead and let the students fire everything up. And we, of course, encourage you to participate in the Q&A. And at the end, we'll have the students answer some of those questions for you.
There we go. Good morning, everyone. I want everyone to take a big, deep breath with me. In through your nose, and out through your mouth. And then I want everyone to just take a big, deep stretch for me. And I'd really make you move, but we're over Zoom, so I'm not going to torture you too much today. And actually, just so you know, that was actually, I can't get my thing to ding, but that was 32 seconds. And what's 32 seconds have to do with anything? Well, that was actually 32 seconds is when somebody falls victim to a cybercrime every 32 seconds. Isn't that amazing? This means that actually a cyber attack happens 22,500 times every single day. That's miraculous to me. And to be honest, that's only the ones that we know about. There's so many more that go unreported, or ones that we don't even realize that are happening. So 80% of those said that they've had higher volume of attacks or malware. We'll get into those kinds of terms. Just anything that's malicious, something that's happened to their computers, their softwares, their emails, something that's gone amiss. 80% of people have reported something going on with their software, their computers, since working from home. And obviously, we have gone through a pandemic in the last year and a half. So we have more people working from home and not in an office setting where we're monitoring those things more closely. So, again, we've got people now with this pandemic. We had people home from schools. That included, our kindergarten through 12th grade. We also now had higher education. So we had universities. We also had community colleges. So we put a lot of people at risk, not only businesses, but colleges, schools. So we also had a lot of costs associated with that. We had people with jobs associated with that. So that's what we're here to talk about today. Want to introduce our team. I will go first here. My name is Mary Romberg. I'll introduce the rest of our team as well. We are part of the IT team. We work for a company, the Not a Live Here Community College. We are based out of Iowa, and we'll go through, like I said, my name is Mary Romberg. I actually have a background in healthcare. Worked for 20 years out of healthcare in a bunch of different facets. I do have a bachelor's degree in nursing. My passion with IT actually goes through, I was way back in documentation world where we still charted with ink and went through the transition when computer charting went into place. So even though we have 80% of nurses that are on board with documentation being actually a good thing, there's still a lot of things that could be worked out. Lots of redundancy, still some payment issues that could be worked out, and still that continuum of care and quality of care issues that I see as the future. So I'm going to turn it over to Trent now.
Hi, my name's Trent. I'm from Northern California originally. I just graduated from University of Iowa this last August with a bachelor's in social informatics. Decided to go to DeltaV to kind of expand more knowledge and get more hands-on learning. Yeah, I was in the Marine Corps for 6 years before college, straight out of high school. While I was there, that's what my fun fact, I was part of Barack Obama's security detail when he was president. So that was a pretty cool little thing to write home about. Yeah, so I'm just really looking forward to keep on broadening my knowledge and kind of finding that career that's gonna make me happy. So.
Hi, my name is Louis Gill. I grew up in Anchorage, Alaska. No, we don't live in igloos up there, but we do have a taste for tech. I got into tech as a hobby early on, back in the days when the 386DX was still around, for those that might be into the older models of computing. But as a professional, I did get into the realm of healthcare for quite a long time. I'm just sitting in a position where I think it's time for me to move back into tech. So I'm a bit outdated. I came to DeltaV to brush up on that, to become relevant again. And I've just enjoyed learning a lot of the topics that I have. Again, we don't use our computers in igloos. So it's a great time to bring that tech into the real world. And I'll let Laura tell you a little bit about herself.
Thanks, Louis. My name is Laura. So before coming to DeltaV, I've been in the restaurant industry since I was 16. So a good part of my life. And I've always been in management in that industry. And, you know, after so many years, that wasn't my passion anymore. So I went through Project Iowa, and that's actually how I found out about DeltaV. And I'm really grateful that I did, because it helped me find my new passion, which is technology and IT. Ultimate goal, which is far away, but I would like to be a cybersecurity analyst. That stuff really interests me. My fun fact is I got to see Muse at a sold out show and had front row seats. So that was a super exciting day of mine. And I will pass it over to Michaela.
Hi, my name is Jared Bauman. I'm an Iowa native. I grew up in Cedar Rapids, and now I'm over here by Ames. Educationally, my background is I have a bachelor's of psychology, or Bachelor of Arts in Psychology from Mount Mercy College. And then most recently, I've been doing the ops program here at DeltaV. I operate my own business where I am an online third-party seller on marketplaces like Amazon and eBay, as well as doing computer repair locally. My fun fact of the day is that I've kissed the Blarney Stone. And
Hi, my name is Michaela Harrison. I am originally from Omaha, Nebraska. I've been interested in tech since I was a kid. I grew up around people who worked for like companies like IBM. And so it really made me very interested in tech. I have a associate's degree from DMAC. And my fun fact is I once shared a lift with Beyonce's friend and stylist, Ty Hunter.
And so now we're going to actually bring it back to Jared, who's going to give you a little update on why we are doing what we did. Again, we assembled this great team of us professionals to really dig into why we did what we did. Again, we had this pandemic situation. We did not have an actual attack, a cyber attack that occurred in our college setting. But again, that ounce of prevention equals a pound of cure. It's not if it occurs, it's when it occurs. So we wanted to be fully prepared. Jared, I'll turn it over to you.
thank you, Mary. And I wanted to thank all my teammates as well. We had a great project, and I had a great time getting it ready. So can you hear me now? Good. That's because we're on top of our network. We've been acknowledging what's been going on in society with COVID-19, keeping people at their homes. They need to remotely work. And with what's going on with these DDoS and ransomware attacks, we need to optimize the security measures that we already had in place and perhaps rethink some new ones. And basically just, I'm not going to go into it too deep, but a basic definition of a DDoS attack is that a person uses a bunch of machines to slow down your network or website. It's kind of just like a malicious attack with machines. And then ransomware is more or less they encrypt your files and then make you pay money for them to get them back. They get the, thank you. Awesome. So what we needed to do was reconfigure our network and systems a little bit. And some of the things that we did to do that, we'll go into in more detail, but I'll just list them here. A virtual private network, otherwise referred to as a VPN, a hybrid server strategy. Before we were on-site only, and we're including Amazon Web Services to make that into a cloud on-site hybrid. And then with Microsoft, we're going to be utilizing Microsoft 2019 server and doubling down on the Microsoft security features that come with Windows security, because it has a lot of things in there that sometimes people don't take advantage of. And we need to make sure our students and staff are doing that. And then also we're going to be possibly looking at third-party solutions for security and backup. And I think it's Lewis up next, right?
Jared, thank you for that great overview. So when we walked in the door, we're looking at a very flat overview. Nothing up in place to keep people in the sections of the network that they need to stay in. Nothing to slow an attacker down. I mean, as you can see, everything's all in one pot. With everything being in one pot, you know, once you get in, you have access to everything. Can I get the next slide, please? Our solution was to separate it out a little bit. So let's say we get an intrusion from the weakest point in our network, which is sent out to our guests. It allows anybody who can connect to the Wi-Fi to be able to get in and have internet access. And with the previous setup, before we came in, if they were to be able to escalate their rules, their permissions, they would then have access to everything. This actually puts a physical barrier by putting them on their own smaller network from accessing student files. It also keeps students from exploring with some new skills they may have come across, keeps them from exploring the rest of the network as well, keeping those files safe. Now, if we were to have an attack that compromised our system, it would allow us to respond by shutting down that one section of the network while we try to isolate the problem. And if need be, we can relaunch from scratch that network from an image that we store in Amazon Glacier. And I'll get into that a little bit more here in a minute. We have a portal that allows us to access our server, which contains the keys to the whole kingdom, being known as the Active Directory. And Trent here in a few minutes will get a little bit further in detail with the Active Directory. But just as a brief overview, it's the catalog of users and what they have access to, as well as what they're allowed to do on the network. And keeping that on the other end of a single ported door called a virtual private network, where those systems can only be reached from one specific computer address on our network. That puts a level of accountability, recordability in place so that we know who is accessing that, when they're accessing it, and that they can only access it from one point. So yeah, it's a very secure process to keep it gated that way. And it allows us a lot of flexibility. As I said, if we were to get hit with ransomware, that could be brought back up quite readily and quite easily. So to get back to the Active Directory, I'm going to hand it off to Trent to basically explain how all that is implemented.
Thanks, Lewis. Can I get the screen share, please? So here is the Active Directory that Lewis was talking about. Right now we're at the remote desktop services, and this kind of gives a little topology map on kind of how it was set up, the RD for the remote desktop. And down here at the bottom, you can see our Not a Live Here college, our community college, which has about around 2,000, I guess, occupants of like staff and students. So at this page, you can kind of see where like the domain names and kind of all the licensing and like the certificates you have to get between these so they can trust each other and know that their connections are verified and working. So in the Active Directory, you can actually see the users that we set up for the domain. So inside of the domain users, you can see what members are allowed to access into the domain. So we kind of have the IT department, which is my fellow group members and me, plus a couple of other profiles that were designed to be professors or students to kind of make sure that they both had access, but not access to each other's stuff. So from inside of the network, you can actually see what programs we would have installed actually onto these remote desktops that we would have. So right here, we kind of have some examples of like WordPad and Paint and Google Chrome and Calculator to kind of show the possibilities of range, the stuff you could have. So like right here, you would have like Excel or PowerPoint or whatever the faculty needs to teach and the students to be able to do their job. So why is this important? So this is important because this way we can, as admins or the IT admins, we can kind of update and maintain the kind of environment that these faculty and students kind of have. And we could do general maintenance as well as verify that everyone has the same access to these apps. So I'll show you a live version of it. So here on the right, this is just a Google Chrome application, and we're going to log into the actual server. So here you can see that this is the apps I was talking about. So when I try to use one of these, so like if I was acting like a student or a professor, I would actually be able to come on here and be able to use the application as designed. So this is very useful for anyone who's can't really make it, and like especially during these pandemic times where I helped my fellow groupmates were talking about last time, that this makes it really easy for students to kind of do their job, or like if they don't have access to transportation, to kind of still go to school and get the job done. Also here I will show the URL from outside of the network. So this is on my personal computer trying to log into the same application. So, and it pulls up the same applications. So in short, this is kind of where we were trying to get throughout the whole project, which is everything kind of built up around this. So I had a lot of help from my teammates, kind of from them setting up everything that was needed, like Lewis setting up the Active Directory, so this would be able to be possible. But this was like a big kind of check in the box for me personally as well, because like this was kind of a scary moment, but I was glad that I was able to kind of get through it. But yeah, so that's pretty much the Active Directory, and I will stop screen sharing now, and I'll pass it off to Laura, I believe.
Thanks, Trent. So as Lewis was kind of mentioning earlier, talking about the VPN. So I just wanted to give a quick overview for people who might not be familiar. So the VPN is virtual private network, and basically it's a way to establish a protected network connection for our students and our staff that will disguise what's going on and their personal files and stuff. So attackers have a more difficult time of getting personal information or student information off of our network. And what we did was we used a program called OpenVPN, which has a lot of cool features, but it allows us to offer connectivity even outside of the campus network. So what I have here is in the right corner up here. So that's what the student connect to the VPN would look like on their personal device. So this is available for computers, for phones, and basically they just go in, they move this slide from off to on, and they are connected into our VPN. That way it is securing all their information and all of our information from outside sources. And if you look at the bottom here, this is what it would look like as on our end of things as admins. We can see every user that is connected through the VPN, how much data they've sent or received, how long they've been connected, and their real IP address, which I blocked out here because that's one of my group mates, real IP address. But so this way, it's just another way of monitoring like what's going on our network, and there's other reports and stuff we can get from it. But especially if there's a lot of information being sent and received, that's something we're going to want to look into, because that could be a sign of a cyber attack. So it's a really cool program that we had set up here. It works really well with our Windows server. It's also built in AWS, Amazon Web Services. And so everything just flows really nicely, and we're able to ensure an extra level of protection for our students and our staff. And with talking about like that extra level of protection and kind of security stuff, I am going to send it over to Michaela, who's going to tell us a lot more about security.
Thank you, Laura. Security can be difficult on campuses because networks need to be somewhat open. You have students, staff, faculty, and researchers who all have different needs to being connected to the network, which makes it difficult to lock it down completely, and you can't force them into certain ways of working. So there will always be viruses and people who don't make the best decisions when being connected to the network. So that's why it's important to prepare for problems that you will have, such as hackers and viruses and compromisers. The way we will implement a security plan would be first taking inventory of all our equipment. Cyber attacks and data breaches can result from lost or stolen laptops, unauthorized access to accounts, unpatched software vulnerabilities. Another way to protect our traffic is by blocking the outbound traffic to prevent from anything that isn't supposed to go out from going out. Setting multi-factor authentication, such as, which is password plus secondary authentication, which involves getting a text message with a code that expires, a email with a one-time code that expires, using a fob key, also using security questions after signing in. For example, I use Microsoft the Authenticator app to log into AWS, and for just an extra layer of security. So when it comes to monitoring, we are using CloudWatch, which is a tool that watches the system, and it protects the infrastructure resources and the applications, the server, the network, the database, and it gives you insight into your system health, your resource utilization, and it helps optimize application performance. When it comes to protecting the server and web app, we're using Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection, which provides preventative protection, file blocking, blocking at first sight, threat and vulnerability management, endpoint detection and response, and things of that nature. We're also going to be using Microsoft 365 Defender for 365 subscriptions. When it comes to protecting the Wi-Fi, using a captive portal to have people sign in. You have to agree to the terms of use first, and then have your credentials and sign in, which is, we've been looking at different ways to do that and different packages, software called Entangle, for example, which allows admin to block internet access. Also using a VPN to connect remotely to a web app, as well as using a VPN for singular admin access to the network. And so now I would like to pass it off to Mary.
Thanks, Michaela. And so with all of those things that we want to put in place, really we have to look at who's our biggest, who's our biggest person that we have to not target, but who do we have to educate on these items? So we have to look at who's using our software, our products, and again, it is our users, it's our students, and also our faculty. And so we can't leave out also those vendors that are coming in, or even our adjunct professors or instructors. So all of those people together, what are we going to do about it? And so really with cybersecurity, it's a matter of identifying that problem as quickly as possible and getting to the root of it. So time is of the essence when it comes to that. The other item is really that portion of communication, getting that communication out as effectively as possible and getting it spread around, basically. And so remember that cyber criminals do not discriminate. It used to be, you know, maybe it was more based on financial institutions. We used to think about it that way. And again, when we think about hacking or cyber criminals and things, we oftentimes will think of things like they're wearing a ski mask or they're wearing a mask or things like that. That's not the case. Okay. It's a lot of white collar crime, things of that nature. So we have to look at this in a whole different avenue. So and again, it's not just one type of organization anymore. We're looking at, you know, again, we're looking at higher ed now as a really strong source of a target. They are not picky. Okay. You know, again, the cyber attack can cost you just, you know, not only the monetary amount, but you have to look at also what it's costing you in the long run. It's also costing you your name or your reputation that you know, you've built up that reputation for so long. Warren Buffett basically has that quote that it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about things like that, you do things differently. So we have to think about cybersecurity that way. The average cost of a malware attack on a company, latest stat was 2.4 million. I'm sure that's increasing. Okay, the stats are coming out at a rapid pace. Loss of time, this is an average, is 50 days. And with being info loss, and that statistic is 43% of that cost. So, and then I kind of mentioned this earlier, but there are two types of companies. Those have been hacked and those who don't know yet that they've been hacked. And that's from John Chambers. He is actually the executive chairman of Cisco. So again, what are we going to do about it? Well, obviously we have some policies and procedures that go into those standard operating procedure manuals. We want to present those to the board, have those submitted. But then again, we have some other things. We actually want to present a task force for cybersecurity, have some different multidisciplinary team members get together once a month, meet. They've thought of some great ideas already about possibly having like a phone chain of command that would go to our students, laminated cards, so that way if they see something suspicious, they can alert that chain of command immediately, and have that system in place. Other thing would be that we educate all new hires immediately, and it's actually a system that would record people. That way we have that tracked, and then it does it once a month with all of our faculty. It's actually a 80% retention rate, so we know that they are getting the material, they're retaining it. Another thing would be third-party evaluations. Somebody else coming into our facilities, they're actually going to do those checks for ransomware, malware, viruses, worms. They're going to do those checks for us every quarter. So we have those things covered. Those are our suggestions. Next slide, please. So our implementation steps. One of the things we really had to look at was looking at hardware and software, our other tools. We talked about going into a hybrid model, because one of the disadvantages of being a community college is that the cloud is a really great resource for those of higher ed. The problem is being a smaller community college. We get a little bit of a disadvantage there. When you have those higher numbers, you get covered a little better. You get a little better rate. And so that's why one of the reasons why we had to go with maybe a hybrid model there. But we still have those advantages of coverage. So we get kind of the best of both worlds there. The install for us, we fortunately did not hit a lot of bumps in the road. There are some institutions that have had some major setbacks, especially with COVID and things. We had equipment delivered on time. Just had some really great successes. So really, we were able to get this installed about 8 months. So we were really lucky. Again, we were able to test things, really had great luck and success with our Active Directory going through AWS. Just went really smooth for us. And then our launch, again, we were up and running within that 8-month time window. So students were able to be actually through our admitting process. That was one of the biggest features that we had to look at, because our enrollment, getting our old system and getting students, making sure they're in the system, all of our data was there. We wanted to make sure all the records, all of their GPAs, everything transferred. So, and again, one of our biggest things is we want to make sure that our enrollment data and getting our students into working environments once they graduate is a big part of our mission statement. So that we were able to succeed. So with that, now we're going to open it up for questions.
Yeah, so I just posted in the chat that you're welcome to use the Q&A feature in Zoom. If you're an attendee, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes.
Maybe I'll just go ahead and start off a question. Why did you choose to use AWS or a cloud solution versus on-premise?
I can answer that, but I think I will defer that to Lewis because he had the most experience with the AWS setup. If that's okay, Lewis.
Absolutely. One of the concerns that we had was, well, actually there's two of them. The ability to recover from an attack as well as to try to prevent an attack. Having our active domain server in the cloud allows us to separate some of the most intensive configurations away from the rest of the network. So if there was a problem on the network at the facility and we did get hit by ransomware, the Active Directory would be safe. And again, for those that might have missed part of it or might not know what an Active Directory is, it's a list of all the users. It's a list of their passwords that are attached to it, as well as what abilities they have on the network. So you can see where there could be a lot of time invested in that, and it would take a lot of time to reinstall that and start from scratch. So having that protected by only allowing one route into it in the AWS cloud is the beginning of making that a more secure network and making recovery faster. The secondary part is the fact that we can duplicate that and store it in what Amazon calls the Glacier, which is long-term storage, very secure, very deep, and very hard to get to. And it can take anywhere from 8 hours to 3 days to bring it out of Glacier storage and restore that network backbone, the heart of it, as well as we can keep our shared files and everything else that's configurable to basically be the pumping heart of our network here at the facility. We can keep that safe again between that one virtual network protected doorway. So yeah, that's like the main reason we decided on going to AWS, because they do add that level of security and that extra wall of security within our network, protecting that heart.
Thank you, Lewis. So I'm going to head off here with the questions. So I see that we have one for giving an example of the security policies that would be in place in case of a security breach. I will actually take that one if that's okay with you guys. We actually have policies put in place by the NIST SP 850. That's a mouthful, sorry. But that is actually from the Building and Information Technology Security Awareness and Training Program that's out there. So those are more of the technical aspects of items. So for example, there's one that deals with awareness and training material development. So that's more of the technical aspect of things. It actually focuses more on training sources, scope, content, development of training material, and that includes solicitation of contractor assistance if needed. There's actually one that talks about program implementation. It talks about this step addresses effective communication and rollout of awareness and training program. It talks about addressing options for delivery of awareness and training material. So we also, again, want to address the fact that we want to run drills, just like the fact that we should treat it just like it was like a FEMA disaster. We treat it as though, you know, every campus would have like tornado drills or fire drills. This needs to be treated as such. So, yeah. Does that answer your question?
I would like to also kind of piggyback on
Yeah,
what
go
you
ahead.
said.
Yeah, sorry.
Other ways we would, you know, make sure that
Oh, yes.
the policies is, you know, to lock down everything and to secure
great.
the area and all the files and stuff, and to not leave any sensitive information available for people to get access to, and to report anything to authorities. So.
Right. Correct. Okay, so I'm going, Lewis wanted to chime in as well on that one. Yes, is that correct? Wait, they moved, sorry. Lewis, is that correct?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
It's a very locked in system, and being able to just lock those walls in between users, students, and faculty and guests, it enhances the whole system.
Go ahead, Jared.
So with regard to the security policies, I'm not going to go into depth into each one of them. But basically, like, our approach with this is not necessarily to be micromanaging our students and staff. We just want to educate them on the best ways to do things safely. And if we have procedures to monitor usage, because somebody could just as easily overutilize the network for personal reasons, like streaming movies or something like that, or downloading games or something, and that could disrupt the network in a way just different. But it's not just ransomware and DDoS attacks that we're looking at. We're looking at overall flow of the network being good for everyone. So I'll pass after that.
Thank you, Jared. All right, so I'm going to move on next. There's a question for what role did the current attacks in the media have in the preparation for your presentation? So who would like to take that?
I'll take that one.
Thank you, Laura.
Yep. So we talked a lot, pretty much every day of this class. Actually, one of the things Dan had us do was we brought in news articles about what's happening in tech, because one of the more important things that I've learned throughout this process is that you have to stay up on things. You have to know what's going on so you can best protect yourself. So the role of the current attacks was definitely something we talked about every single day of this. class. We talked about even outside of class, like we would text each other articles, stuff like that. Like it was just something that we were hyper aware of. And so it had a huge part in the preparation for this presentation and just being aware of what's going on around us. And I'll pass.
Thank you, Laura. All right, so Andy had a question for, how did you all decide who would work on what? And did you try to push yourselves to work on things you were less comfortable with? So, I was gonna say, Jared, did you want to go first?
I'll let you lead the way, Mary. if that's
Oh,
okay.
I was just gonna say, this, obviously we had a project in 201 first. And so that was more of a, we were able to define those roles a little different. We had very clear cut roles that time. And this time, I don't know why, but it just kind of fell into place. It seemed like, I think because we had that experience in 201. And so we maybe felt a little more comfortable. We were able to distinguish, okay, yeah, I can handle this part. Yes, I can handle this part. I want to say, did we try and push ourselves in different aspects? I can speak for myself personally. I still kind of stayed in my realm of, I feel comfortable doing this, but I definitely branched out into different aspects of, I'll give the example of, say, hardware. I branched out a little bit there because I definitely, that's not in my wheelhouse, but I would say, okay, yeah, I'll branch out there because I need to learn these things, or I want to learn these things. I'm definitely not an expert, but I'll take that on. Or, you know what, Trent, you're having difficulties with this, like, give me something, I'll try and look it up. I'll help you all I can. Definitely not an expert, but let me help you. So. Go ahead, Jared, did you want to interject there?
I'm okay, actually. I think you explained it pretty well.
Okay,
That's okay.
sorry.
I'll go next. So I initially wanted to do the Active Directory, but then I realized that's not my strong suit. So I was like, I'm really interested in security, so that's why I decided to volunteer to do security.
Yeah. I'm gonna, like, I would head on that as well. I think we kind of found more comfort with, okay, I think this is where I feel the best in, like, I want to move forward with this later on, or I want to start exploring this area more, because I think in 201 it was still kind of like, I don't know. I don't know what I feel comfortable with. And this project definitely, I think, solidified for a lot of us, because even the other day we had yesterday, the day before, there were a few of us that had a conversation saying, Michaela, I think, brought it up and said, if you had your choice, what aspect of tech would you go into? And we were actually able to identify that clearly. So that was nice.
I kind of have a little thing too to say
Yeah,
about
go
that.
ahead.
I was pretty much open to do anything. Like I figured that whatever I was given or I needed to do, like I was gonna be able to give it my best and accomplish it. So yeah, like I pushed myself when it came to like the Active Directory stuff, because that was kind of where we ended in 201, and then we kind of made it live and like accessible during 301 on the network. So that was kind of like a big moment, like I said during the presentation for me, where it was just like, you've been working so long and like doing everything to like build up to a point, and then once it went live and kind of we were able to pull it up on a URL, it was kind of like a eureka kind of moment. Like it was, I think everyone was kind of smiling and going to bed happy that night. So yeah, that was definitely one of the things I pushed myself, and I was pretty proud about. So
Yes, very proud. Like that, we were all proud for you. Like even today, it's like, yay, it's working. So, yeah. Lewis wanted to actually add to, or go back to ICE's last question, please.
Yeah, I was actually, I see ICE had asked something that probably needs to be approached based off of our work here, like right off the bat. It's a very good basic question. He wanted to know what the first thing he should do to protect himself from being hacked. And that's one of the reasons why we were looking at taking the heart of our organization to AWS, is because that we could keep a copy of our most secure, our most important files somewhere else than on our network, on our computers. That way, if we did get locked out, if we did get hit by ransomware, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, as great as this is going out. So you're not going to be locked out of your files. Like, keep your important files on your Office 365 drive or your Google Drive. Use those external resources to keep duplicates and backups available. Backing up, it's because every antivirus ransomware solution out there is going to be weak at one point in time. So it's better to have your stuff backed up than to get hit, rely on a product, and find out it didn't save you. So yeah, that's my spin on being protected from being hacked, because you lose your information, that's it. And there's no way to get it back. You got to protect those pictures, those family memories. Those are the things that ransomware really hits you in the gut on. Do I lose my kids' baby pictures? If you have them backed up, you don't have to worry about that.
I'm sorry, I did not see that in the other column, so I apologize for that. And I'm gonna go against Lewis's thought on that, and I'm gonna say, ICE, you need to hire me. So that's my thought on that. How you like that? I'm kidding.
And I'll chip in on that. I actually put a file in there linked to a G doc, and it has some really easy directions on how to utilize the Microsoft security features to protect you from malware and such. That was something we focused on in class. It's a really basic document with a few links in it, so it's not pretty, but it'll help you.
All right, we got a few minutes left here. We got to get through this. So let's see. We got through Andy. Let's go to Ben. What was everyone's favorite part of this project? Can Laura or Michaela take this?
For me, I think it was like the late night conversations between all of us, just trying to push each other through and telling each other not to give up. I know, especially with me and Laura, we were like really pushing each other. So that was my favorite part of it.
Yeah, Michaela, that was one of my favorite parts too. And you know, with a project like this, sometimes you get frustrated, things don't work out how you want, your internet's terrible. But I think my favorite part is just that part that we all came together, we all got it done, but also that part where everything that wasn't working just started working. And we could just like breathe a sigh of relief, like, oh, thank gosh, we got it figured out. That's a really fun part.
Yeah, absolutely. So ICE asked, are all VPNs the same? So Laura or Michaela, you guys had that one.
No, they are not all the same. There's definitely a difference. There's network versus service. Network is basically connecting to a endpoint, and the service is basically a package. That has additional benefits. There are other types of the main types of VPNs are like the remote access VPNs, which is like to connect to your like job remotely. A site-to-site VPN, which is it provides multiple users in various locations with the ability to access each other's resources. There are VPNs for business or pleasure, multi-protocol and single protocol VPNs, which is there's various types of VPNs. Laura, would you like to add to that?
I think you covered it for the most part, but a cool thing, if people are interested in VPNs, go ahead and research some different internet browsers for yourself, because there are internet browsers that have built-in VPN connections to kind of just anonymize what you're doing, or just provide you the extra layer of security. I know Opera is one of them, and I will butcher the name of it, so I'm not going to say it, but it starts with a VID. But yeah, so there are options just in a browser that can give you that VPN connection that you're looking for. So just research it and look into it.
Good job. And Ben, it looks like Jared's typing you an answer, but quickly going off his other question, what was the most difficult part of this project?
Yeah, so I think we're at time. We always
Okay,
want to
sorry.
be very mindful of wrapping up. I know a question Aaron always loves us to answer with is, everybody, in 30 seconds, what's next for you?
Sleep.
For me, I'm finding a career. That next step forward.
Same, and I'm planning on getting some certifications and looking for a new job.
I myself am heading to work next Friday inside one of Microsoft's data centers here in the Des Moines area. And then I also plan on pursuing my AAS in IT at DMAC as soon as I figure out a schedule on that. Scheduling is always fun when it comes to college.
Yeah, so proud of you, Lewis, for real though. That's awesome. My next plan, I'm going to start looking for an entry-level job in this field. I want to work on getting some certifications done, and I want to look into, I don't know if it's getting a degree or just figuring out more education on that cybersecurity front, because I'm really interested in that cybersecurity analysis kind of work.
Trent.
I think Jared's the last one to.
Oh, I didn't hear
Is
you.
this for the favorite part of the project?
What are you
No,
doing
where are
next?
you headed next?
Oh, where I'm going next. Sorry, I was answering some of the unanswered questions in chat. Next, I'm looking to do kind of what Michaela was talking about. These courses are meant to prepare us for certain certifications like CompTIA Network Plus and A+. So I'm gonna take a break for a week or two and just like sleep, eat, and play with my garden and cats. And then I'm gonna go hit the books and try to cover some of the areas that maybe I didn't catch on as well, or could use a little bit more studying. And then with the certifications, I hope that advances my career. I'm probably going to seek additional employment, but maintain my self-employment, given that it's kind of a passive role. I think that's all I need to say. Thank you.
Awesome. Mary, did you go, Mary?
Nope, I did. I was just gonna thank everyone very much for everything.
Yeah, I think most of you know, but what I do here at NewBoCo and DeltaV is the first time I've not been in IT. So my whole background in history is doing IT across different industries, whether that's ag or manufacturing or healthcare or even the railroad. And as I was watching your presentation, I mean, I cannot tell you how many times I thought, that's exactly what we were doing. That's exactly what we needed. And so just to see how far you guys have come and truly showing absolutely real world things that, if you get into a network administration or system administration job, that I just know that that's the kind of stuff you will be doing in that job. And so to see just how practical that is and how ready to go you are and how ready to hit the ground running you will be is just really cool to see. So that everything that you guys were talking about really just struck home. And I think you know that part of what you learn in DeltaV is how to continue to learn. So everything that you learned in that, you're gonna get a job somewhere and immediately start researching and trying to figure out how does that apply here, or how do we do things differently here? And you've already kind of been taught how to think that way and learn that way. So you'll really be set. So really excited for all of you and for what's coming next for you all. So congratulations. I know it's really hard work. It's really intense. It's not for everybody, and y'all stuck it out and you did an amazing job. So congrats. And thanks for everybody who jumped on to watch. Again, this will be available on Facebook, and we'll get you the video. So if you want to send it to friends and family for them to see as well, certainly do that. Again, we have on June 26th, 101 coming up. But for this ops program, the next curriculum starts June 28th. So if you are interested in doing what these fine folks have done, please reach out and just check out deltav.school, www.deltav.school, to learn more about all the different options and all the different classes that you can take. And, join these folks in a new career in IT. So congrats, everybody. Dan, as always, thank you so much. Did an amazing job with this cohort, as always. And thanks, everybody, for joining us. Have a great weekend.